Hello, and welcome to this evening's webinar on Scottish Apprenticeships from a parent's point of view. My name is Claire Owens, and I'm joined tonight by my colleagues Emma Diamond and Stephen Bone. My colleague Helen Dunapace is here to support us by translating our discussions into British Sign Language live. We're pleased to have so many of you joining us tonight. We work for Skills Development Scotland, or SDS as you may know us. SDS is the National Skills Agency for Scotland, and we play a critical role in the development of Scotland's apprenticeships. We are delighted to be holding this event in partnership with the National Parent Forum of Scotland, which is a volunteer-led organisation that works to ensure parents and carers play a full and equal role in education. As a parent or carer, you have a key influence on your young person's life and indeed their decision making. We are looking very much forward to sharing information and resources with you tonight. This information will hopefully give you a good overview of Scottish apprenticeships, how to search and apply for apprenticeship opportunities, a parent's perspective and insights from an employer. Our aim is to better inform you about the opportunities through apprenticeships and the benefits of taking one, so that you can help advise your young person when they are trying to make important career decisions. Tonight, we'll give you information including useful websites as well as contact details should you wish to get in touch or find out more about apprenticeships and any of our services. But please don't worry about taking notes on any of these. We'll send all information to you in an email after the session. Before we get started, I need to let you know that our session tonight is being recorded for anyone who can't make it along. This will be available if you want to watch it again, and the link to do so will be sent in a pack to you afterwards. We can't see or hear you, so if you'd like to ask a question or make any comment, please use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. Any question raised tonight will be included in our follow-up guide that will be sent to you, including the link to the recording. So if we can go to slides, the format of the evening, if I can run this through for you. You'll hear some information around what Scottish apprenticeships are available and how they work. We'll then chat to some parents of apprentices on their opinion of apprenticeships, hear from an employer on how apprentices are supported in the workplace, and talk to a support organisation on experiences helping parents and young people around accessing apprenticeships. We will then take some time to go over some frequently asked questions. Remember, if you have a question on something we haven't addressed, please use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will include them in the follow-up guide that will be issued along with a link to the recording. So let's discuss Scottish apprenticeships. In Scotland, there are 3 types of apprenticeships available: foundation, modern and graduate apprenticeships. In this session, we will discuss these in more detail and how work-based learning can open the door to a wide range of careers. Apprenticeships are developed in conjunction with employers to meet current and future skills demands in Scotland. Today, there are around 43,000 people in apprenticeships and work-based learning opportunities, with 12,000 apprenticeship employers. Apprenticeships are for everyone. Diverse opportunities exist from school age and beyond across a wide range of our sectors, anything from childcare, broadcast journalism, accountancy to software development. All of these leading to industry recognised qualifications with good progression opportunities to advance skills and career aspirations. We are pleased to see that our apprentices are from a range of different backgrounds and circumstances, including individuals with disabilities, those with experience of care, and ethnic minorities. Let's have a look at the key features of our apprenticeships. We'll start off with foundation apprenticeships. Now, foundation apprenticeships are for senior phase school pupils in full-time education. Foundation apprenticeships will engage with employers to gain skills employers need, learn from their chosen industry, and achieve a work-based learning qualification. The foundation apprenticeship is chosen as a school subject over 1 or 2 years. Foundation apprenticeships are currently available in subjects that support key growth sectors, including engineering, IT, scientific technologies, and social services and healthcare. Apprentices develop meta skills. Now, these are skills that employers are looking for, and these include communication, teamworking, and problem solving. You may know them as soft skills. Completion leads to a nationally recognised qualification at Scottish Credit and Qualification Framework, SCQF, Level 6. That's the same level as a Scottish Higher, and it's recognised by all colleges and universities in Scotland for entry into their further and higher education courses. We're also piloting some SCQF Level 4 and Level 5 foundation apprenticeships in automotive, construction and hospitality in some local authorities. A foundation apprenticeship can help with progression onto a modern or a graduate apprenticeship. So let's look at modern and graduate apprenticeships. These programmes are similar in that they are both employed status work-based learning programmes. They allow people to work, earn and learn while being directly employed in an organisation. Anyone who's reached or is about to reach the statutory school leaving age in Scotland can apply to become a modern or graduate apprentice, and they are open to new or existing employees. Any employer in Scotland seeking to widen their talent pool and address skills gaps can recruit a modern or graduate apprentice. Apprentices spend most of their time learning in the workplace, although some may also undertake formal learning off the job, which is supported by a provider, such as a college. And again, they will develop those meta skills that we talked about earlier that are sought by employers. So looking at the benefits of apprenticeships. Apprenticeships bring many benefits to individuals. They develop crucial meta skills. Again, we're speaking about the meta skills, building the skills for life and work to adapt to change throughout their career. Apprenticeships also benefit employers and Scotland's economy. Employers benefit from increased productivity as they equip their workforce with the skills they need now and for the future. The apprenticeship system is responsive to the changing nature of jobs and industries, ensuring the future, broader needs of the economy are considered. I wanted to show you this slide, which is live from today from our apprenticeships.scot vacancies search. Currently, we have over 1,000 live vacancies for modern and graduate apprenticeships in Scotland. Now, those are the ones that are actually advertised by certain employers. There are obviously much, much more who have perhaps not used apprenticeships.scot, but that's an amazing starting point to look at these vacancies. And on the slide, you'll see I've selected a few to show you the types of opportunities that are available for your young people right now. Now, looking at the modern apprenticeship and financial support, the salary is £21,255 per year. So that person would undertake that apprenticeship, working in employment with that organisation and earn that salary whilst learning their skill. The same with the graduate apprenticeship at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, cybersecurity at Energy Networks. Again, if you look at the salary range for that particular role, it is actually quite staggering. And again, an engineer there at Network Rail, again, one of our major employer that works with us to support all their modern apprenticeship vacancies. Now we're going to open up the discussion with our panel members this evening. Can panel members please switch on your camera? Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to some of our panel members who are on the call tonight. We have Diane Green-Lees, a parent of 2 sons who have chosen apprenticeships in school and post-school. Diane is also the Director of National Training Programmes here at Skills Development Scotland. Diane's responsible for apprenticeship delivery for the whole of Scotland. So she is incredibly passionate about apprenticeships and has seen firsthand the impact they can have on our young people. We welcome Russ Scott, the father of Meg, who chose a graduate apprenticeship to progress in her career. And a very warm welcome to Duncan Reid, a partner at IT firm Icelandic, an apprentice employer based in Edinburgh. And last but not least, welcome to Cheryl Burnett, the Chair of National Parent Forum of Scotland. Cheryl aims to outline the support available when considering apprenticeships and the impact they can have on young people. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's absolutely amazing to have you all on the panel to talk about apprenticeships. I'm now going to start off with Diane, if I may, and I'll just make sure Diane can come on camera, and everyone else. That's great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Diane. Thanks for joining us. I wonder, would you mind telling me a bit about your sons? Just a wee introduction about the apprenticeships that they chose.
Thank you, Claire. And firstly, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to join the webinar this evening and share with you some information about both my sons' experience during their apprenticeships. I have 2 sons, Adam is 24 and Callum is 20. Adam, my oldest son, completed a modern apprenticeship in digital applications with his employer, Hewlett-Packard, and learning provider QA. He started his apprenticeship in December 2018 and completed in December 2019. Callum, my youngest son, started his apprenticeship journey with a foundation apprenticeship in financial services in school in S5 and S6. He started in 2019 and completed in 2021. And following this, he was successful in securing an apprenticeship job with Barclays. And he is now in his third year of his higher apprenticeship in compliance with Barclays and is due to complete this year.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, apart from you being the Director of National Training Programmes for SDS, and I can imagine, what encouraged the Adam and Callum to undertake an apprenticeship?
Both my sons have always had a strong work ethic and desire to earn their own money. They both had part-time jobs going through school and enjoyed the extra money and independence it gave them from an early age. They both liked the idea of working and earning at the same time, being part of a team at the same time as learning and gaining a qualification, all of which an apprenticeship offers. They both have a lot of energy. They've always been very active, and they still are and still do have a lot of energy. And I'm sure what I will say next may well resonate with some parents with us on the webinar this evening. Going through school, my boys often said to me that they found it difficult to stay focused in the classroom and when studying on their own. And this chimed with the feedback I would get at parents' night. Frequently, the feedback I got was they were capable, they were clever, they were nice boys, but they needed to be more focused. They were not applying themselves. And this was often frustrating for me, as I'm sure it was for the teachers and indeed for Adam and Callum, with my frequent nagging. And when my sons learned more about apprenticeships, the style of contextualised and work-based learning really appealed to them. They both liked the idea of working as part of a team, working on tasks and projects that had a direct relevance, and they could see making a difference to the work of a company, and also the hands-on and experiential style of learning and assessment with no exams. And throughout their apprenticeships, I really saw both my sons grow in confidence. I saw a huge improvement in their communication and organisational skills. And in particular, I was really pleased to see how motivated they were and the positive feedback and recognition they received on their progress and achievements. And both were provided with many opportunities to take on more responsibilities as their apprenticeships progressed. So I can certainly say for my boys that over the last few years, this form of work-based learning has indeed really suited both of them. They've both been really engaged in this learning environment and thrived in the workplace. And they've also really valued and benefited from the opportunity to earn a wage, and a good wage, while gaining skills and getting qualified throughout their apprenticeship jobs. And I must say, as a parent, I've quite enjoyed that as well.
Indeed. Now, Diane, no two people are the same, as I'm sure you'll agree. And I just wondered, how have the apprenticeships been the best option for Adam and Callum? Can you talk to that a wee bit for me?
Yeah, as you say, Claire, no two people are the same. And both my boys are different and their apprenticeship journeys have been different. Mm-hmm. They started at different stages. They've undertaken different types of apprenticeships in different sectors with different companies and learning providers. So let me first start with Adam's journey. Adam left school in 2017. The foundation apprenticeship wasn't available as an option choice for Adam at that stage. I think if it had been, it would have also been a good option choice for him while at school. Adam had been working part-time in retail during his senior phase and decided to go to college to complete an HNC in retail management. He started at City of Glasgow College. He enjoyed being at the new campus and he enjoyed college life. But he quickly realised that this was not the route he wanted to pursue, both the style of learning and the sector and career path for him. And he discussed this with me after 3 months. And although it was really difficult for me as a mum, as I wanted to see him settled into a career path, I agreed that he should leave college and take some time to work out what he wanted to do. And he spent the next 9 months working part-time and considering his next step, and decided he really wanted to pursue a career in the IT software sector. And he applied for a number of apprenticeship jobs on apprenticeship.scot, and I know you'd mentioned that earlier. And he was really pleased when he secured his modern apprenticeship job with Hewlett Packard. And once he started his apprenticeship, Adam really thrived. He had great support from his manager and mentor at Hewlett Packard and indeed his training provider at QA. He was able to progress well through his apprenticeship and achieved his modern apprenticeship within 12 months and then secured a permanent role with Hewlett Packard. He worked there for 2 years and then progressed on to a new role in 2021 with a global software company, Cooper Software, where he currently works today.
Fab.
And now to Callum's journey, it was a different journey. The foundation apprenticeship was available as an option choice when he was going into S5, and he picked that as one of his senior phase subjects. Callum, early on, knew, I think, what he wanted to do. He was interested in a career in financial services and felt that the foundation apprenticeship would help him to learn more about what a job in that sector would actually be like, and to gain a qualification and give him a head start in that sector. He really enjoyed his foundation apprenticeship, and in particular his second year on work placement with AXA Insurance. And during that year, he always received very positive feedback and encouragement and support from his workplace mentor, which was great for his confidence and motivation. This experience on his foundation apprenticeship confirmed in his mind that he did want to secure a job in the financial services sector and leaving school. And again, like Adam, he applied for a number of apprenticeship jobs advertised through apprenticeship.scot. And he was delighted, as indeed was I, when he was successful in securing his apprenticeship job with Barclays on leaving school. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've got to say is that, it's interesting because during the recruitment and interview process, Barclays were looking for more than how many A's or B's he had achieved, and more about the values, behaviours, skills and experience that he had, and how he would fit into the culture of Barclays as an organisation. And throughout his interview process, Callum was able to draw on his foundation apprenticeship experience, the knowledge, skills, competences and practical experiences he'd gained through the work he had completed with AXA during that second year. He's now in his third year of his Barclays apprenticeship, and each year he's been very fortunate. He's done a different rotation, working with different teams and different parts of the business, indeed some global teams, and he's gained a really wide range of skills and experience. He's due to finish his Barclays apprenticeship in August, and he's really hoping to stay with the company and secure a permanent job from September. So, as I said, both my son's apprenticeship journeys have been different. They start at different stages, with different types of apprenticeships, with different companies, but there's key things they have in common, and that is they both thrived in their apprenticeships. They were motivated and committed to succeed. They were supported and encouraged at every stage by their employers, and they have earned a good wage throughout and gained their qualifications. And I know they both really loved working as part of a team and the wide range of skills, experience and opportunities that have been offered to them.
That's excellent and fantastic stories and journeys for both the boys. Can I ask, what are your thoughts on the support that Callum and Adam received on their apprenticeships, both from the employer and the learning provider that they worked with?
So both my sons received great support from both their learning providers and employers, and it really helped with their motivation and confidence, and it's a key reason they both thrived in their apprenticeships. When Adam started his modern apprenticeship with Hewlett-Packard, he received great support from his manager, the learning team in the company. They always had regular check-ins to ensure he had everything completed on time. And through the combined efforts of Hewlett-Packard and QA, as I mentioned earlier, he was able to complete his apprenticeship within 12 months and then secure a permanent full-time job at the end. It was great, he was given more responsibilities as his apprenticeship progressed and received frequent recognition for his achievements and for performing well. And during his first year with Hewlett-Packard, they actually recruited a second apprentice into the team. And it was good because Adam had the opportunity to take that individual under his wing and support him into the role. He also attended recruitment fairs with Hewlett-Packard to speak to other young people about the benefits of apprenticeships and encourage them to find out more. And also Callum got great opportunities as well as support. During his work placement with AXA, as I've said, he received really positive feedback and engagement. And he also got the opportunity to speak at a webinar event at the Scottish Apprenticeship Week in 2021, along with his mentor at AXA. It was a foundation apprenticeship webinar for young people and parents, very much like this evening, and he spoke about his experience and the benefits to him, including building his confidence, his communication skills, and it was great because he could encourage others to consider apprenticeships as an opportunity through his experience. Okay. And it's at Barclays, he's currently got a fantastic opportunity out with his apprenticeship. He's joined a leadership development work stream to get himself known out with his apprenticeship job, looking for his next stage. And he's engaged in a project known as Let's Talk sessions. And it's great. In these sessions, Callum interviews different people from across Barclays on lots of different aspects of their career. And it lets everybody listening, usually big audiences, through the webinars to hear just how different people in Barclays have got to where they are today, the opportunities for promotion and basically people's career journeys. And he says that these calls and webinars are great for all colleagues, including himself across Barclays, to really see what a next step can look like, and gives them great motivation. So for me, it's been great to see my sons not only succeed in their own apprenticeships, but also to take these opportunities to actually further develop their skills, their confidence, but also to communicate and encourage others into apprenticeships and in the next stages of their careers. I can truly say that my boys have really benefited from the support from their employers throughout their apprenticeships. Their employers have believed in them, encouraged them, and really motivated them to succeed at every stage. And it's great for me to be able to say as a mum that they're both currently working for global companies in the sectors of their choice. And I can honestly say that apprenticeships have been life-changing for my boys.
That's absolutely amazing. May I ask, Dan, if your boys were here tonight, if Adam and Callum were here tonight, what do you think they would say about their apprenticeship journey?
Both my sons, I think, would have many great things to say about their apprenticeships and the opportunities they've been given on their journeys. But last night, preparing for the webinar, I actually asked them both this question. So I'm going to say it in their words. So first from Adam, he said, I would encourage other people leaving school to really consider an apprenticeship as an option. Once in my apprenticeship, I was really motivated and focused, and I completed my qualification with ease and was kept on in a permanent job with a great company. Studying isn't for everyone, but having the ability to work and earn money all at the same time as getting a qualification, in Adam's words, I'd say it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, and from Callum, he says, I would say the apprenticeship journey has been the best possible option for me, as it's given me insight into the financial services sector and the opportunity to experience what a business role in the sector is like. In my current apprenticeship, I've gained a wide range of skills and experience. It's motivated me to apply for full-time roles with Barclays when I complete my apprenticeship, and I'm really hopeful to progress my career in financial services with Barclays in the future.
Wow, that's a fantastic story for both Callum and Adam. Thank you so much, Diane. It's fantastic to hear the impact Scottish Apprenticeships have had on both of your sons. That's excellent. Thank you. I would like to come to Russ now, if I may, if Russ would like to turn his camera on. I'll just make sure that we are all sorted. Excellent. Hiya. Can you hear me all right, Russ?
Yeah, all good.
Excellent. I wonder if I can ask you about your thoughts on your daughter Meg's apprenticeship journey.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me, as a parent, what were your education and career expectations for Meg, and did apprenticeships ever factor into that?
So our as a couple, our expectations of Meg was that she would do her best and be happy in what she did, first and foremost. And she was always of the caliber to go and do further education. So we kind of expected her to go on to college or uni or something like that in her chosen profession. Obviously, she had to find her own way to decide what she wanted to do. And I was quite pleased as an engineer myself that she decided to be an engineer. So
that's excellent. So as a parent, what were your well, I'm thinking she'd already started a degree.
She had, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me a wee bit about what her journey was with regards to university?
Yeah. She started at Heriot-Watt doing structural engineering and civil engineering. She very quickly decided that university wasn't for her. I have to say that even before she went, she had some doubts because it was a long way away. Not necessarily just that, but she wasn't that keen on the idea of student life. So she'd left home by then, was living in a student accommodation. After about 6 months or so, she came back to us and said, this isn't working for me. I'd want to do something else. As parents, we knew that there wasn't many opportunities for her in this area. I live in the north of Scotland. So she was 150 miles away. There was very little we could do. So it was real scary for us. You know, where was she going to live? Where was she going to work? How would she get to work? All of these things. And she had to leave her student accommodation when she left university. So there was a huge amount of uncertainty. Very scary moment for us all. But yeah, she was quite adamant that university wasn't for her, and that she was going to be get a graduate apprenticeship. She had mentioned them before, but hadn't been able to secure one. So, you know, she went very heavily into finding something and applied for lots and lots of things in her field. And she was successful with ACOM in the end and got a graduate apprenticeship across in Glasgow, moving across there.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So what did you know about apprenticeships before Meg started to look into the graduate apprenticeship route, Ross?
So I didn't know a huge amount about graduate apprenticeships. They were relatively new at the time. What I did know was pretty much what most folk would know of my sort of age, I think, would be day release had been a thing when I was younger. And it was a similar sort of idea. What we didn't know, of course, was the support that something like Skills Development Scotland could provide. That network of apprenticeships behind that was supporting it. And as I say, the schools didn't really know enough about it themselves. I think that has changed, and it's a hugely important and improved field. She went in to do this, was being paid, working, gaining experience. Yeah, ideal. It was exactly where she wanted to be, and she thrived from the moment she got there.
She definitely has. And Meg said in the past that the apprenticeship has been life-changing for her. Can you think why that would be, Russ?
I think the apprenticeship would be life-changing because she had to grow up into the field of work where she always wanted to be. She didn't like being dependent on others. She's always had that independent and forthright nature, and she just got out there and found it, and she was delighted to be then able to gain experience and earn some money, crucially. She felt as though she wasn't then beholden to others, and was able to progress. So yeah, it changed her hugely. As then I think you know, COVID came along and caused quite a few other issues that she had to deal with.
How did she overcome those? Thinking to, you know, continue to achieve, work and learn. How did Meg get on with that?
So it took a while. Everybody was in the same situation. What was it going to happen? Where was it? We were 150 miles away, 200 by that stage. So she missed her family and friends. She couldn't have that day-to-day contact. However, she relied on the people she could make contact with, which was a peer group at university, and the friends that were in the area. She caught up with them wherever she could. She grew up quick. She then had to, you know, she had a flat, she had to run a flat and all the rest of it. She had to get used to hybrid working, which was quite a challenge, I think, working from home, living at home, not getting out too much. And the university eventually caught up with getting courses online and being able to work together. Big reliance on each other, though, really good. And they really pulled together as a group of students. Especially the girls who were also doing the graduate apprenticeships. They all just pulled together, and they're a tight-knit unit now.
That's it, that peer network. I think it's especially around that pandemic time. I think it was more important than ever. So Meg's recently completed her engineering apprenticeship with ICOM. Has the apprenticeship, would you say, given her an opportunity to develop in that business?
I would say it 100% has. Right now, she has completed her apprenticeship, and on graduation she was made to a full engineer straight away, which, you know, working in an engineering environment, the normal path is you finish university and a couple of years of graduate training. She was straight away made up to being an engineer because of the experience she'd managed to gain whilst gaining a qualification as an apprentice. She developed quickly. She's now managing £1 million projects and more. She's working towards a chartered engineering status and mentoring others, and still thriving on it, still enjoying it.
Oh, fantastic, Russ.
In addition to that, she was also able to apply for and has been successful in getting at least to the finals. And I think she was a graduate apprentice of the year. No, I'm going to get the year wrong. 2022, I think it was.
Okay, fantastic again, though. and we are very aware of Meg's journey, and Meg has been really supportive of Skills Development Scotland and our marketing colleagues to tell her story and get that message out to that peer network across the country. So really, really fantastic to hear about Meg's journey. And thanks indeed to both yourself, Russ, and Diane, for sharing your views on how your children have benefited through apprenticeships. And on behalf of SDS, can I wish them a huge success and happiness in their lives and their careers. If I can come to Duncan now, so if Russ can shut off his camera and we can bring in Duncan. Thank you so much. Hi, Duncan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Excellent, absolutely brilliant to have you here tonight. Thanks so much. Can I talk to you now about the employer's perspective of apprenticeships? So parents and carers often wonder how an apprenticeship works and how their young person will be supported in one. Can you talk us through that, please?
Absolutely, yeah. It's we get apprentices from all sorts of different walks of life and different roles. So some are coming straight from high school, some have maybe left, they've got part-time jobs or other forms of employment. Some are have tried college or university and just found it isn't for them. So big variety of backgrounds, and really kind of appreciate people are coming with all sorts of different expectations. So it's one of the challenges for us is actually finding good quality apprentices. Apprentice.scot, the website you showed earlier, is a great example. I'm not sure how well known it is, but we tend to advertise on social media, etc., etc. Word of mouth. You're trying to find somebody usually in the local community close to the office. So if anybody is close to Edinburgh this evening, we've actually got an IT support apprentice vacancy open.
That's a small plug for Icelandic there, Duncan. You're very, very welcome. Can you tell me a wee bit about, so if somebody on the call tonight, for example, wanted, or a parent and carer, they wanted to encourage their child to apply for the job at Icelandic, can you talk me through what the interview process would be like for that individual?
Absolutely. We're very much aware that at this stage of somebody's life, they may not have an awful lot of work experience or life experience. So it's not a formal interview. We don't expect a young person to come along and sit in a conference room, something like on The Apprentice with Lord Sugar, and answer lots of hard questions. So we actually asked them to go and make a 5-minute presentation. And really do a little bit of research about Icelandic, a bit of research about the modern apprenticeship, and come and tell us about Icelandic and about what it would mean to come and work for us. And that really gives them a chance to speak about something that isn't just themselves, because that can be really hard for a young person. Also shows us, are they good at doing a bit of research? Can they put a logical argument in a place and communicate it? And that's actually a big part of IT. It's about doing some research, communicating something to a client, and convincing somebody that you've got the confidence to find a solution to a problem. So these things also show us the big quality that we're looking for, which is attitude and enthusiasm. You know, it's if I would, I'm saying to the parents out there, if your child is interested in an apprenticeship and get offered an interview, really impress upon them. They've got that one chance to really shine. And what we're looking for, I mean, we often say when apprentices start, this is the longest job interview of their life. They're going to get 10 months or so working for us. And at the end of it, I say to each one, you want to make it so I would be crazy not to offer you a full-time job at the end of it. So at that interview, we're trying to find people who are going to bring that tenacity, that enthusiasm, and over time, develop that work ethic that we're all looking for.
That's great. Hearing all the attributes that you're looking for in an apprentice as well. Can
you
tell me?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, and again, just to echo something one of the previous speakers said, it really isn't about qualifications. And again, another great message for young people if they've not had the results they wanted in exams. This isn't the end of the world. You know, we're really not looking for that. We're looking for somebody who's got an interest in IT. We're not looking for somebody who's a super duper A+ student necessarily.
So really all about attitude and enthusiasm.
Absolutely, and really recognizing that work-based, context-based, kinetic-based learning is often, you know, much more suitable for some young people out there. Passing exams isn't everybody. You've got some really intelligent, able people out there who are just rubbish at passing exams. So we absolutely recognize that.
Absolutely. And Diane alluded to that earlier about her son's journeys. It isn't about the A's and B's and the qualifications. It is about that attitude. So something to bear in mind for the parents on the call tonight. Can I ask, what support is in place at Icelandic for your apprentices? What can they expect?
An awful lot of support is required, especially if a young person is coming straight from high school. We don't treat apprentices as kind of second class. They're not there to make cups of tea or things like that. Within starting Icelandic, for example, within the first week, you'll be on the help desk, you'll have a headset on, you could be answering a call from lawyers, a general manager at a hotel, a production manager at a factory. So you're going to get thrown into the front line. So we need to put a lot of support around that person. So there's a lot of coaching and development work at any point in time. There's a senior member on staff who we refer to as the pit boss, and he's there to make sure that everybody in the firm, especially the apprentices, know what's expected, know what the next technical steps are. They all have a coaching chat, an online chat, which has at least one or more near peers in it, as well as some senior staff where they can have a discussion in a more closed environment. We have an apprentice czar, so a member of staff who looks after all our apprentices, make sure they're doing okay, checks in on them. Did they have a good weekend? Are they up to date with their coursework? Are they prepared for the next training activity, etc., etc.? And we meet with apprentices every couple of months as business owners, just to sit them down, see how they're doing, highlight some of the great things that have happened in the last couple of months, discuss any challenges, any particular things that didn't go as well as expected. Having said to them at the start, this is like 10 months, make it crazy for me not to employ you at the end. It would also be crazy for me not to engage with them in that 10 months. So yeah, there is a lot. And I'd like to think it's a family atmosphere. Apprentices are kind of the younger siblings of the Icelandic family, as it were, and they actually bring a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. They teach the older ones a lot of new words, new phrases and slang. There's a lot of banter, so yes, yeah, it's good. It has to be successful. It has to be supportive.
No, that's fantastic. And again, it goes back to what Diane and Russ are saying about that mentoring and that support, getting that. So having that apprentice czar is absolutely phenomenal. Can I ask, what are the challenges that come with employing young talent through the apprenticeships, and how do you deal with those, if there are any, of course?
There, as the parents will identify, somebody at the age of 16, 17, 18, or even into their early 20s, they are not the finished article yet. Just because they've left school, they're not exactly adults. So yeah, we have all the problems that you might expect. And some of it is kind of that transition from high school to the workplace, to the kind of real world, as it were. So it can be everything from you've been late 5 times this month, what's going on, or can you go get a haircut, you look kind of like we couldn't put you in front of a kind of client. So there's those type of things. Challenges can be young people have things that go on in their life. It might be breaking up with a partner. It might be problems at home. It might be death or illness in a family. And again, as we would with any employee, but especially with apprentices who are still learning these life skills, lots of support out there, lots of advice in terms of helping them just navigate that kind of path to, mature adulthood, turning up, being professional, and just kind of having your life together, shall we say.
No, fantastic. Now, we'll be in the IT sector, and again, a sweeping generalisation. We did a webinar recently about apprenticeships and additional support needs, and I just wondered, from an employer's point of view, have you experienced any neurodivergence in the applicants that you're receiving, and indeed some of your apprentices?
Absolutely, I would say, especially over the last 10 years in the workplace in general, an increase in mental health and neurodiversity, and especially I would say in the last 3-4 years, especially since the pandemic, I would say a big increase in that. And if you look back, you've got people at 13, 14 years old going into lockdown at a point, a very important point in their life, when they would build social skills, team building skills, confidence skills. That was just not there. So absolutely, yeah. I would probably say every round of interviews we have, we're seeing neurodiversity there, and it's something that I would say not to be embarrassed about, not to feel you can't mention it. We really encourage people to be very open. We're very open at Icelandic with all our workforce in terms of mental health. That's a really important message, I think, that's coming across in Scotland, that it's mental health is something that needs to be much more awareness of. So starting that with apprentices and really then working with them to say, what are the challenges that they might have, what are the unique things that they might be bringing to us. Neurodivergency isn't all about kind of it's a problem. There can be so many positive things about it, and it's simply about being open and recognizing how, as an employer, can I help you? And as an employee, what's the special talents that you're bringing along? And especially in IT, there are a number of roles where some aspects of neurodivergence brings specialist kind of skills. There's things where we need incredible attention for detail. There's parts where you need to absorb knowledge and specialize really quickly. There's bits where you've got to take thousands of components apart, put them back together. So all of these things are really important, and I would just encourage parents to make sure that their children know when they go for an interview not to hide it away, to be really upfront, so that right from the word go, we can understand how best we can help and support anybody.
Brilliant news. That is absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Duncan. Can you tell me a wee bit about how you've seen your apprentices grow and develop?
Absolutely. As part of this Apprentice Week, we were doing some background, and it turns out we've actually helped over 40 young people into the workplace over the last 10 years. Wow. So very, very kind of proud of that. And most of them have kept in touch. Because we're people's first job, not everybody stays. It's not everybody's forever home at Icelandic. But we, as I said, we've had people come from high school. We've had people who were working in Greggs, working at McDonald's, people who had felt a failure at college. And it's great when you see and hear that, they're a manager in a firm. Some of them are managers in my firm, but you hear that they've become onto successful infrastructure engineers. Some of them are working on really big projects. You know, if an apprentice or an ex-apprentice turns up with a brand new car they've picked up from the factory, we've had people buying new build homes, and it's great to be part of people's success story like that. And people who at one point thought their world and their options were quite limited. Their horizon was quite small. To see where they've ended up because of the apprentice scheme is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that I think this it would be great for this week to help achieve is if I was giving advice to a young person, not wanting to take anything away from university. I'm heavily engaged in universities myself, but if you take a young person at the age of 17, 18 through the apprentice scheme, they're going to end up in their early 20s with industry recognized qualifications. They're earning a salary. They're going to actually have 3-4 years work experience. They're actually going to be much more employable than somebody who's leaving, graduating with a degree and possibly a sizable amount of debt. So I would really urge everybody to consider the modern apprentice scheme, not so much as the kind of alternative if you didn't get into university, but it's a really sensible, viable option. And if you think about where the destination is, if academia isn't for you, if passing exams are a struggle, actually, I think if you fast forward to the age 21, 22, you might find your young person is actually much more financially stable and successful.
Absolutely, Duncan. Thank you so much for that amazing insight, really, into how the company works. And how Icelandic actually has supported apprenticeships, Duncan, and especially for me, that one about neurodivergence. I think it's phenomenal that you're able to do that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Very welcome.
I'm now going to turn and speak to Cheryl. If I can ask Duncan to put his camera off and bring in Cheryl. Hello, Cheryl.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing fine. I actually managed to join successfully this time, so it's a win.
Yes, you did. Excellent. It's so great to have you with us tonight, Cheryl. I wonder, can you tell us a wee bit about the National Parent Forum of Scotland, please?
Yeah, the National Parent Forum of Scotland is made up of parent volunteers who represent each local authority across Scotland. So there's 32 local authorities, so there's effectively nearly 32 of us. I do have some vacancies. We actually sort of debunk and demystify the jargon that we get in education. As parents, we get letters from our schools or we get information sessions, and the ye old acronyms or something, big jargon words, technical words get used that can baffle us as parents, and we don't quite always understand what it is they're actually sort of highlighting us to. The National Parent Forum of Scotland have been working in partnership with Skills Development Scotland for a number of years, going way, way back. We've actually created a apprenticeship in a nutshell, which is basically put into simplified parent language that explains the role that apprentices has in education. It explains basically all the different information and signpost parents to support, whether that be through apprenticeship.scot or whether that be through SDS, Skills Development Scotland's website as well. So it's really just been there to advocate and make sure parents are getting the right information and it's not complicated.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. I wonder, we spoke a bit when we were preparing for the webinar about overcoming challenges in an apprenticeship. Now, you've got experience with supporting parents and their children in terms of looking at getting into apprenticeships. Can you give me a wee example of the work that you've done and maybe outline some of the outcomes that have come from it?
I think the biggest challenge that we see as parents and what we hear back into National Parent Forum is the understanding of what it means to actually uptake or participate in an apprenticeship. And I think the difficulties that we face is not enough information given to us. As we know, as parents and carers, the historical thing is we're put through school and the information given is that you'll do your nationals or your hires or advanced hires leading to university. You've heard very quite clearly Duncan speaking about the impact that has, but the role apprenticeships play, being able to give young people the experience of work-based learning in an environment that is supported, and actually they're the equivalent to an adult, so they're getting they're not getting well, you're just a young person. The reality is it's the skills they have. And I'm very fortunate that if I take my National Parent Forum hat off and I put my youth leader hat on, I've actually had quite a few apprentices. But the one that I really want to speak about tonight is Lucy. Lucy has been honestly an inspiration to my group. When I first met Lucy, Lucy was quiet. She has autism. She really struggled to be in an environment, even with working with other young people. It was always her barrier. Her challenge was also being able to attend school. So it's been remarkable to see the impact that her foundation apprenticeship that she's done through school with going to college has made on her life. She has been able to now advocate. I'm really pleased to say that Lucy has actually been asked to advocate and speak to other young people about the impact of her foundation apprenticeship has had. She's studying childcare and she loves being in a nursery environment. Her eyes light up. Honestly, when I see her on a Friday, her eyes are lighting up when she tells me about being in a room with young people. As when I say young people, I'm talking about 0 to 3 or 3 to 5, and being able to support the babies or toddlers that are preschool kids for early learning. And it's made such an impact on her, and it's able to be shared, because before Lucy would never be able to speak to people and actually advocate at that level. And as a youth leader, it's really empowering to see the difference. But what I should say, it's not just the impact on Lucy, it's also the impact on her mum and her dad and her family, and seeing that change and that drive and seeing the difference in how Lucy is actually communicating. For me, the apprenticeships, I can't recommend highly enough. As I said, Lucy's one of my young people. I could give you a list of the impact from young people studying a foundation apprenticeship, going on to a modern apprenticeship. But for me, the priority is making sure parents and carers get the right information at the right time, especially when it comes up to subject choices, because it's not always made clear about the impact that apprenticeship can actually have and where it can lead to.
Now, just going back ever so slightly to Lucy, because I'm a huge fan. Can you talk a wee bit about just that from last week's? We did a webinar for the benefit of the parents on the call tonight. We did a webinar just on foundation apprenticeships on the 22nd of February, and Cheryl was kind enough to come along and support that event. And she mentioned Lucy at the time. Can you tell us what happened after Lucy seen the webinar?
I'm going to expect Lucy's probably watching this right now, so no doubt I'll find out with feedback later about the impact of this one. But last week, really, honestly, it kind of blew my mind, quite honestly. Lucy, as I said, she has autism. She really struggles. Her barrier is going to school. With a lot of the sort of challenges that she faces, it can be quite a hurdle, even to go to the foundation apprenticeship. I'm not saying that she's there every day when it's on, but the fact that the apprenticeship has been able to inspire her and it's actually ignited a passion has made such a difference. Now, as I said, it's very challenging for Lucy to be in an environment where that she's facing a large group of young people, even in a college setting. There's been a lot of support put in place to ensure that she's able to get there and obviously be supported at the college. Lucy last week was absolutely buzzing, is the only word I could use, when she heard about what we spoke about and the impact that we had talking about Lucy's journey. Because it's funny, when you sit there as a parent or as a youth leader and you're watching and you're speaking to these young people, you tend to forget actually it's their journey and the experience that they have and their perception of how they're viewed on their journey. And for me, it's life-changing. When I look at Lucy and I see from the young person I first met who could not make eye contact to suddenly being able to offer her ability to stand and talk to other young people about an apprenticeship, did I think she would be able to do that? And my answer is probably not. I thought that would be taking her right out of her comfort zone. And to be honest, I am so proud of everything that she's done. She has been amazing. She's inspiring to the young people we have at our group on our Friday. She's integrating and explaining things that she's done there. Honestly, it's been a phenomenal life-changing journey on the FA. And I said, that's the foundation apprenticeship. That's not even going beyond school. We're still at that end of the sort of senior phase. Yep. She's currently in S5, so she's got another year to do of her FA.
Well, Lucy, if you're listening, you're on the call tonight. Congratulations, and keep up the good work. That confidence growth that you've had is just phenomenal. So please keep that going, and keep Cheryl informed so that she can tell me all your stories. Thank you so much, Cheryl, as always, for your fantastic input. I'm going to quickly go to Diane and Russ, and what I'm going to have to say to people on the call tonight is we usually have a Q&A session at the end of the call, but unfortunately we're going to be out of time for that tonight. So I'm just going to quickly ask 2 more questions, and then we'll go quickly on to signposting. And thank you again. So, before we go to the panel, can I ask Diane, what would you say, Diane, to other parents and carers on this call tonight about apprenticeships as an option for young people?
As you know, Claire, in my job, I'm always promoting and believe strongly in the benefits of apprenticeships for young people, employers, and indeed the Scottish economy. But as a parent, hopefully I've shared tonight how I've experienced firsthand the difference they've made to my 2 sons' personal journeys. And speaking to parents and carers tonight, I would say, if anything I've said this evening about my own son's personal learning styles and their experiences that have resonated with any of you this evening, I would strongly encourage you to find out more, to visit apprenticeship.scot, to speak to your SDS careers advisor in school, and just to consider the wide range of apprenticeship opportunities that are now available across many growth sectors. So whether that's a foundation apprenticeship, a modern or graduate apprenticeship, just how they could help your young person to develop their skills and a next step to support their career path to the future. And as I said before, as a mum, I can hand on heart say that apprenticeships have been life-changing for both my boys and have really helped them in their early career journeys. So thanks for listening to me this evening.
Thank you so much, Diane. Russ, may I ask you the same question?
You may, yes. So I would say do it. Get out there and be your best person. You can really, learn so much through an apprenticeship. You can get the experience, get the qualifications, and most importantly, get paid. Get out there and make a contribution to your own life as other people. And then it gets you on the ladder to gain that experience to really make a difference and get stability in your life. It's just such a good thing to be able to do that as quickly as you can get there yourself. As I say, don't try and do it too quickly. Be your best. Give it your best. Give it your all. And it's a really rewarding way to do things.
Thank you so much, Russ and Diane. Thank you. I hope that has been helpful to our parents, carers and individuals on the call tonight. So I am going to go quickly now to our next steps and let you know about some resources. Now, remember, as I've said to you already today several times, we will be sending you out a pack which will have all the information. I'll have a link to this recording and all the signposting information that we talked about tonight. But if I can just quickly remind you the places you can go to. So to find out more about Scottish Apprenticeships, where you can get support and where you can apply for vacancies, please visit www.apprenticeships.scot. And as mentioned, this will list most Scottish apprenticeships available, over 1,000 on at the moment, available under the vacancy search. However, it is important to remember that also look at other sites such as employer websites, job searches and social media websites, as well as speculative applications to employers. There's also lots of useful information and support for you and your young person on our careers website, www.myworldofwork.co.uk. And Skills Development Scotland have a careers advisor in every state school in Scotland, offering your young person support through a one-to-one appointments, group work, drop-ins, and this will help your young person with their career planning from start to finish. And you can contact your school to find out who your child's careers advisor is and how to contact them. Additionally, we offer an all-age career service across our 65 centres across Scotland, and you can book an appointment by contacting our helpline on 0800 917 8000. The National Parent Forum of Scotland is made up of volunteer and parent and carer representatives from each of Scotland's 32 local authorities, and Cheryl did mention there was a couple of vacancies. The National Parent Forum of Scotland's website has a range of handy guides and these nutshell guides that Cheryl talked about for apprenticeships, resources for parents on its website, mpfs.org.uk. Now, they will cover issues such as online safety and all different career options. If you have a question, comment or concern about any of the education-related matter in your local area, you can reach out to your representative directly through MPFS's website. But again, as I say, please don't worry if you've not taken any of that down. We will send them out along with a short survey about the webinar tonight, which we'd be grateful if you could complete. So we are at the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for listening and taking the time out of your evening to come and speak to us tonight. We hope that you found the session helpful. On behalf of myself, the National Parent Forum of Scotland, all of our panel members this evening and the rest of the team at Skills Development Scotland, thank you for joining us and have a great night. Take care.